Hello everyone. Now you will hear a brief summary of the movie Snitch. The film is based on real events. An old friend is trying to persuade Jason Collins to hold on to a large batch of pills, but the boy has doubts. It's too risky an undertaking. His dad, John Matthews, owns a construction company. On the way home, he noticed a responsible worker who was moving bags of cement so they wouldn't get wet in the rain, and decided to help Daniel. Craig ended up sending Jason drugs by mail. The frightened guy signed for it and opened the box. Inside there was a huge bag of pills and a GPS tracker. Immediately, FBI agents burst into the house. The kid panicked and started running through the yards, but it was pointless. The agents surrounded him from all sides and arrested him. John happily lives with his second family, but the idyll was disrupted by a call from his ex-wife, who asked the man to come to the police station. Sylvia is shocked because Jason is a good boy. The former spouses met with a lawyer. It turned out to be much more serious than John thought. It's a federal crime. Moreover, Craig was sending tablets even after he was arrested. He was promised a minimal sentence for this. So Craig involved Jason in this? Yes. To reduce his own sentence, Craig stated that Jason agreed to keep the drugs at his home. Sylvia hoped that her son would receive a probationary sentence. However, the minimum penalty for such an amount of ecstasy tablets is 10 years in prison. The parents were even prohibited from posting bail for their son. Jason was given the same offer as Craig. His sentence would be reduced if he helped arrest drug dealers. Jason was offered to inform on at least friends who use illegal substances, but the young man refused. He did not want to become a snitch. Through his acquaintance, John reached out to the district attorney and asked her to influence the situation, but everything had already been settled. Jason will receive a reduction in his sentence only if he agrees to cooperate. Suddenly, John offered himself. He would help arrest the drug dealers, but Joanna ignored his offer. Jason looks really bad. The beaten guy doesn't want to tell what the other prisoners are doing to him here. John feels he owes his son, to whom he didn't pay enough attention. Jason admitted that he deserves punishment, but not such a harsh one. He would never sell that junk. John also doesn't know any dealers, so at night he just got in the car, turned on the camera and drove around the city looking for pushers, but they decided to just rob him. John, who had been beaten, was lucky that a patrol police car was passing by. John ended up with the prosecutor again. Joanna finally agreed to accept help from the persistent citizen, but the shipment has to be large. If it's cocaine, then not less than half a kilogram. John started looking into his workers' cases. That same Daniel had been twice convicted for drug dealing. John gave the worker a ride and treated him to dinner at a cafe. He decided to use Daniel and asked him to revive old connections. Allegedly, he wants to use his trucks for transporting all sorts of illegal goods. But Daniel refused. He wants to start a new life and is ready to work hard every day. This topic is closed for him. One more offense and the guy will get life imprisonment. John caught up with the worker and offered $20,000 for the service, but he still refused. In the evening, Daniel confronted the local hooligans his son was hanging out with. He doesn't want the boy to have the same fate as him. Like Daniel himself, his wife is constantly slogging away at work. Necessity forced the former ex-con to finally accept the boss's offer. They drove into a sketchy neighborhood. Daniel arrived at someone named Malik. A whole gang is constantly hanging out at his house. Daniel informed an old friend that he had quit and was here for the last time. After a while, they also let John into the house, who managed to turn on the voice recorder. Malik immediately threatened the stranger with a gun. "If you were a cop, you'd be the biggest chicken I've ever seen," he said. John explained that he has a business and transportation that can be used with minimal risks. He claimed he's on the verge of bankruptcy and urgently needs cash to keep afloat. Thieves can transport absolutely any weight. Malik agreed, with the condition that John personally transports the first batch. The authority ordered Daniel to go with the businessman too. Malik also faces a life sentence, so he wants to check on the old friend. Daniel already regretted getting involved in all this again. The bandits checked John out. He is indeed not a law enforcement officer. John went to the prosecutor and played the recording. Agent Cooper, who arrested his son, was also present in the office. Cooper warned that Malik is quite a thug and deals brutally with his enemies. Joanna promised to reduce Jason's sentence if they managed to catch Malik. The FBI installed bugs in the truck, and Cooper advised John to be himself. The bandits will immediately spot the fake. The partners will have to drive all the way to El Paso, which is on the border with Mexico. It's over 1,000 miles. In the morning, they stopped at some junkyard. There, they were met by an armed gang of Mexicans. John told the suppliers that he was going to hide the goods in a bag of cement. The bandits opened 2 bags, took out some cement, and stuffed inside packs with much more expensive powder. The goods were thrown into the truck. Just then, another gang decided to attack the suppliers. A shootout began. The leader pulled out a machine gun and started tearing the enemies apart. John needs to somehow get out and leave this place. He didn't wait for the car to clear the way, so he first knocked over a pile of debris and then the fence. An FBI agent's car also got caught in it. At night, a whole pile of bodies was buried in the ground. The Mexican authority El Topo appreciated John's work and the new delivery method. The agents were in ambush, watching as the truck returned to the warehouse. Malik called and ordered the goods to be loaded into John's pickup. John himself called the FBI agents. The agents are getting ready for the final phase of the operation. Daniel saw that the boss was calling someone and pointed a gun at him. John swore he was talking to his wife. The agents are following the pickup with the goods. Malik's car appeared ahead. They stopped in the parking lot. Daniel hopes they will be paid and not just shot. The handover of goods is taking place under FBI surveillance. John received 10 grand. He was accepted into the business and offered much more serious work. Soon the man will be introduced to important people. The agents were supposed to arrest Malik right now, but Cooper commanded to let him go. John was watching out for the FBI agents, but not seeing them. He headed to the warehouse to fix the vacation gaps. Annalise's second wife demanded to know what was happening and was shocked when she learned the truth. After all, her husband now risks his life every day. The next day, John lashed out at the prosecutor, as he transported not half a kilogram, but 10 whole kilograms. So why wasn't Maliko arrested? The thing is, he couldn't be arrested. The thing is, Cooper decided to also go after the major suppliers. During work, Daniel noticed that the boss left urgently and followed him. John's first wife called him from prison. Their son was attacked. He is now in the hospital. They put more than 30 stitches on him. The boy won't last long behind bars, and the husband isn't doing anything to help him. Daniel asked the boss what he forgot here and grabbed his head when he found out that John went to make a deal. After all, it's not only Malik involved here, but also the Mexican cartel. And Daniel has a son too. At home, the hard worker was awaited by his furious wife. She found an envelope with cash and realized that her husband was back to his old ways. Daniel got down on his knees and started begging Vanessa to pack up and go with their son to her mother's for a few days. He is in serious trouble. The woman was disappointed in her husband. He promised her so many times to quit. Malik was waiting for John at home with his man and once again took him to the dump in El Paso. There, Mexican bandits checked him with a metal detector and at the same time disabled his cell phone. El Topo wanted to meet with John personally. He liked how the driver behaved in an extreme situation, so he offered him to join the force. This time John will go to Mexico alone and will receive 250 grand for his work. And a brilliant future awaits you, my friend. John's phone was returned to him. He will receive a call tomorrow. And what about Malik? Now you work for us. Let's make it clear right away. You work for me. Got it. Everything has gone too far. John returned home and called Annalise. The woman had gone with the child to her sisters, but John understands that they will not be able to hide anywhere. From Cooper, he learned that El Topo was a former military man and runs the cartel's affairs. Joanna guessed that this time John would be transporting money, not drugs. The cartel's profit, which is hundreds of millions of dollars. Cooper asks to back off John and arrest Maliko. This is too dangerous. Yes, that suits Joanna. The prosecutor is blackmailing John with his son. In response, the man demanded that Jason be released immediately if he goes to Mexico. Cooper made it clear to John that he didn't like this idea. The CARTEL always recruits people like him. Middle class, those who have children. They are blackmailed and threatened, and once used, they are thrown into a barrel of acid. You're in for a serious journey. Keep that in mind. John visited his son. Each time they beat him more severely. Meanwhile, they refused to transfer him to another block. Dad told Jason that he respects him for his stance, for refusing to betray his friends. After that, John went to Danielle and thanked the man for not giving him away. The working man is in a panic. They will definitely kill us. They will come for our families, John. After this conversation, the family man stopped by a gun store. At 10:30, John was given the address where he needed to go. The FBI had already placed bugs on the truck, but under the bridge, John switched to an identical truck and drove on. The agents decided to find out why he had been standing still for 15 minutes. But the driver was no longer in the cab, and Cooper has no idea where he went. John decided to act according to his own rules, and Daniel will help him with that. John arrived at the specified address. There was indeed a pile of money in the house. The driver will cross the border in El Paso. The Mexicans will follow. It turned out that the female guard from the prison works for the cartel, and she reported that John's son is in prison. The kid wasn't identified earlier, because he has his mother's last name. Meanwhile, Daniel waited until part of the black gang left on business. He attacked the remaining people of Malico. He strangled some, shot others. In the end, he reached the leader. From the wounded authority, he learned El Topo's phone number and sent it to John. John himself called Cooper. The FBI agents will get El Topo's money, but this will happen on this side of the border. Cooper warned the courier that the Mexicans already know about his son. They pointed a gun at John and ordered him to stop. The man dictated El Topo's number so that the agents could track it. John himself started firing back from a shotgun. He is being shot at from both sides. Fortunately, they managed to get rid of one of the cars. The task force burst into El Topo's house, but the cautious boss had already escaped. However, Cooper was lucky enough to see the fleeing bandit, and he ordered to block the road. That's how El Topo was finally arrested. Then the Mexicans decided to simply take out the rat and started shooting at the truck's wheels. John not only managed to control the vehicle, but also rammed two cars with criminals. One last thing remained. The truck eventually overturned. John found himself trapped. He tries to reload the shotgun before the bandit reaches him, but it was already an FBI agent. Malik died in his home from blood loss. Daniel reunited with his family, and the prosecutor took all the glory for the arrest of El Topo and the seizure of a large sum of money. Unfortunately, for John and his family, life will no longer be the same. They will enter the witness protection program, but Daniel refused the program. For the help provided, he will not be charged. Moreover, John gave him his check for $100,000 for the capture of El Topo. And all this was for the sake of one foolish and principled kid who was finally released.